Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the technical session of the ASEAN Seed Congress Special Interest Group on Field Crops 2017. My name is Kunapon Pantunin, Membership Programs Officer from APSA. If my name is a bit too long to remember, you can feel free to call me Kuna. As a Membership Programs Officer, I'll be here to support our members regarding to technical session programs and study tours. If you are interested to join activities in this group, our chair and co-chair are here to update you in a moment about our exciting future plan next year. Let me not wasting the time, may I invite the chair of this session, Dr. P. Sateesh Kumar, for the opening remarks, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Kuna. And good afternoon or good evening, everybody, and welcome to the deliberations of the Special Interest Group on Field Crops. To begin with, I'll give a very small brief about the SIG on field crops. This has been in place for quite some time, and me and Tahir have been heading this group for the last 3 years. Prior to that, this group was predominantly dominated by corn or maize, which of course there is a logic or rationale for that. Corn being a global crop always attracted the major attention of organizations like this. But 3 years ago, we decided we should diversify the kind of interactions or deliberations that would happen in this group and make it more inclusive. So we started with cotton, moving away from corn. 3 years ago, we had a major lecture on cotton, followed by one on millets, with pearl millet and sorghum were discussed in detail, and the business opportunities for APSA membership in areas like Africa with those crops were also deliberated upon. And last year, we had a very interesting talk on wheat. So that's how we tried to make it more interesting and inclusive. And in the current year, moving away from the crops, we wanted to kind of make it a more concept-oriented kind of a session, and keeping in line with the Seed Congress's theme, which began with the pre-Congress workshop on climate-smart agriculture. We have taken the abiotic stress management in field crops as the kind of theme on which lectures will be there this evening. And keeping in with this in mind, we have two presentations. One on abiotic stress management in field crops, which cuts across the board and gives a kind of an overview on the abiotic stress management, because most of the field crops, especially rice, wheat, and corn, all three major field crops of this area as well as in the Asia-Pacific region, are prone to abiotic stress, and it has been a difficult area to address, both in terms of genetic improvement and crop management. So that's an area we thought we can see what is happening in what are the recent developments in abiotic stress management in field crops in general. That will be followed by a specific presentation by an young man who is an internal part of APSA. He is a homegrown talent. He will be talking on corn drought resistance in corn. So this is the agenda for this evening. And without much ado, I would like to introduce to you about the first topic, which is abiotic stress management in field crops. We had lined up Professor Himanshu Pathak, who is the director of the Central Rice Research Institute, Cuttack, India, as the speaker for this, because he is an authority on this subject and has done extensive research. And Dr. Pathak, unfortunately, he could not be with us today. There was a brown plant hopper epidemic in India, in some parts of India, especially eastern India and parts of central India. Hence, the Ministry of Agriculture in the country wanted him to oversee the relief operations and measures taken to address that problem, and that has made his travel not feasible to this evening's program. And Dr. Pathak's presentation, the presentation you will be seeing anyway will be of Dr. Pathak, but Dr. P.K. Ghosh, whom some of you might have seen this morning in the session on forage crops, will stand in for Mr. Pathak and deliver his lecture. And Dr. Ghosh is also an equally eminent scientist. He has been with the Indian Agricultural Research System for more than 3 decades. He has been the director of Indian Grassland and Fodder Research Institute in Jhansi and associated with it for more than 25 years. And he has several contributions which include community land development, biofortification in pulses and fodder crops, nanoparticles to enhance seed quality, pollination dynamics in seed production, seed standards in several species of legumes and forages, and also he has worked extensively on dust guidelines for the PPVFR requirements. And he is a colleague of Dr. Pathak, who was supposed to deliver this lecture. So we have a very competent replacement, although we don't have the person whom we intended to have. So I would like to invite Dr. Ghosh to come and deliver the lecture.
You know the email I just sent you of the word? Can you forward that to me into my Gmail account? Gmail account, the awards. Awards, can you forward that into my Gmail account? To my
Mr. Chairman,
Gmail account.
Co-Chairman,
Yeah.
Dr. Dadlani, distinguished participants, and ladies and gentlemen. As Chairman rightly said, Dr. Pathak was supposed to deliver this lecture, but in place of Dr. Pathak, just I will try to summarize what he has made a slide for that. But before that, just I want to mention that climate change has impact, in fact, all aspects of the food security, starting from production, distribution, access to food, utilization of the food, and also the distribution of the supplies and on time. Now, if we quickly see the climate change scenario across the world, yes, temperature, atmospheric carbon dioxide has already caused 400 ppm. We all are experienced. Yeah, global mean temperature increased by 0.6 to 0.7 degree during last 75 years. It may further increase if we don't take any mitigation strategy. And it may increase by 3.7 to 4.8 degree temperature by the end of this century. Now, we have already been experienced that 2015 was the hottest year and July was the hottest month. Precipitation may also increase. It may increase by 4 to 5% by 2030. We also experience that season has changed. We cannot say winter as a true winter. We cannot say the Kharif rainy season as a true rainy season. At the same time, winter season has shortened. The life cycle and reproductive cycle of the crop has changed. We all know that the impact of the climate change is evident across the world. We have an increase in temperature, as I mentioned. Then the untimely and excessively rain, and also hailstorm, strong wind. These are the western disturbances. This leads to severe crop losses. Now, we are also experiencing that sea level rise, and also droughts frequent and unusual, and it is not usual location specific, and then ultimately it leads to abiotic and biotic stresses. Now, this impact of the climate change, we can see the crop-wise. We have a notion that increase in carbon dioxide has always a negative point. I think we don't agree. Increase in carbon dioxide may have a positive effect. Increase in yield of rice, legumes, and oilseed by 10 to 20%. Yes, 1 degree temperature has a negative effect on the yield of this wheat, soybean, and groundnut by 3 to 7%. Then yes, increased drought and frequent increase in droughts and floods and increased production variability. We are also experiencing this. Then considerable effect on microbes, pathogen, and insect. Then yes, increasing sea disturbance, I think sea water, likely to affect fish breeding, migration, and its harvesting. Then yes, animal is not escape, animal distress due to heat stress, and ultimately it affects the reproduction cycle. And then can we have that impact, how the direct effect of on crop growth and development in seed production? Yes, it altered the crop phenology. And direct shifting and germination time, and shifting germination time may be because of the modification of the seed dormancy. It not only affects the seed germination, shifting germination time, it also affects the pollen germination and also fertilization. And I think it is expected that Kharif crop will be mostly affected because of shortening of the winter season. It is the Kharif crop which will be affected mostly. Now it has indirect effects on the pathogen, seed pathogen, insect pest, and pollinators. Now coming to the abiotic stress, having said all this scenario, we have two approaches. One is the adaptation. Adaptation, that means crop has to be more resilient to heat, drought, flood, and salinity. All these are climatic extremes. The second approach is crop management, that is towards mitigation. Now, considering the challenges of food security in the developing countries, particularly in India, can we stop fertilizer application, particularly nitrogen? As we know that nitrous oxide is the main culprit, and it is one of the culprits of the greenhouse emission. And then we cannot stop nitrogenous fertilizer application when our target is the food security. Similarly, we cannot stop irrigation to the rice field, flooded rice. Most of the farmers follow this flooded rice. Can we stop? The answer is no. And that is why the Asian countries mostly opt for, not for the mitigation, but for adaptation-led mitigation. So according to this approach, now first approach is our adaptation option should be for according to this climatic parameters, the temperature variation, we should have a heat tolerance variety. Just we should have an early morning flowering variety to escape the high temperature, improve irrigation method to have a less emission of the carbon dioxide and also methane. Then if necessary, we should have a changing pattern of the timing, planting time. Then in case of the erratic rainfall, yes, we should have a submergence tolerance variety, early warning system, so that the farmers can have a proper planning. Short duration varieties, another option, then variety with seed dormancy. In case of drought, yes, we should have a drought tolerance variety, rainwater harvesting, both in situ and ex situ. Because in situ direct, we can go for the soil water conservation practices using the locally available resources or material. Micro irrigation, yes, this is directly enhance your water use efficiency or input use efficiency. conservation tillage has a direct linkage with moisture conservation, so which is highly necessary for rain-fed agriculture. Yes, in flood, we should have a flood-tolerant variety, seed preservation, and early warning. Early warning may be common in most of the cases, salinity tolerance variety. This is some of the picture that's how this submersion takes place, and we should have a variety even this submergence. It is a occasional submergence, maybe temporary phase, up to 17 or 20 days. We should have a variety, and some of the variety is available. These are in the right hand side, it is the drought resistant variety. You see the distinct nature of the susceptible lines and tolerant lines in case of upland situation. Now this is submergent tolerance rice. We all know this about the Sarno 1. It has been released for commercial production and out-yielded its original tolerant Sarno variety by 30 to 35%. It's a good product and it is commercially released. So like these other varieties are also available. Now salinity tolerance, so many varieties are available. I think we can use of it. Now drought tolerance variety of rice are also available, not drought, only it is abiotic and biotic stress. You can see that most of the variety listed here are multi-biotic stress resistance. Now here is a concern. We should have the variety for dual purpose. A variety should have both submergence and drought tolerance. And this kind of variety we need. It is the need of the hour. IT 25667 CR Dhan 801 is a tolerance to both submergence and drought. Yes, this is another system. This is another land use system, that is aerobic rice. The variety are available, plenty of variety are available. This system is mainly for economizing water. It is just as compared to this flooded rice situation or transplanting system. It economizes the water. Now coming to the heat, in most of the northern side of India, the sudden rise in high temperature leads to forced maturity. We should have a variety of resistant or to heat stress, and these are the variety available. Now, just like rice, we should attempt for another important crop, maize. A single variety should have both the tolerance of this, because we know that maize is both sensitive to waterlog as well as a drought. Can we have a resistant gene for both, which can incorporate and can give a tolerance to both submergence or waterlogging and also for drought? And there should be attempt for the short duration variety, particularly farm millet and pulses. Both are rain-fed crops. Just we can escape the drought and also to enhance the resilience. Yes, I am just highlighting one case study of Government of India, National Initiative on Climate Resilient Agriculture. Yes, this is an adaptation technology. They screen out or identified 361 climate resilient crop varieties identified for adaptation to the climate change challenges. Out of these 361, 11 variety have a greater adaptation to drought, floods, salinity, and high temperature. I think this is a good amount of the work for climate resilient agriculture. Now coming to the mitigation strategy or water saving, first one is the laser leveling. As a natural resource manager, if you do this leveling, I think your 50% management is over, because it takes care your efficient utilization of the all inputs. Not only efficient, is timely. So efficient for utilization of the input, I think this is one prerequisite for mitigation strategy and efficient utilization of the resources. Yes, there are other technology, raised bed planting. This is for water saving technology. It economizes 30 to 35% of water. And then this is more scientific base that when the 15 centimeter below surface water is available, only then you irrigate. This is as a scientific base. Now, so far I have talked about this climate resilient varieties, that is adaptation technology. Now, these are the improved methods which has a less emission of the greenhouse emission. Direct seeded rice, we all understand aerobic rice. Very less amount of water is there in the field, which emits less amount of the methane. Another important in Asia, it is popularized in Asia system of rice identification. There is a claim that if we follow this system of rice identification, 60% of the methane emission will be reduced. Then another improved technology is the micro irrigation for upland crops. There is a claim that 1 million ton carbon dioxide we can reduce from the 13 million hectare of the field crops. So this is a outcome of a research. So this is how we should adopt the micro irrigation. Although initial expenditure cost is there, but if we adopt it, it gives at least 70 to 80% efficiency in water. Yes, this another. If farmers don't agree for adopting all these improved methods of practices, if they continue the flooded rice system, one mid-season drainage in flooded rice is a matter. It reduces at one go 50% of the methane production. It has a strong research base. Similarly, the improved nutrient management, we all know that coated urea and others, then application, soil test value, we are economizing the nutrient. We are increasing the efficiency by doing this. Right leaf color chart, we all know. Then placement, proper placement at proper time. This is I think this increases your efficiency. Then foliar and upland. So all these are proven technology. If we adopt, our efficiency, resource efficiency will be enhanced, and ultimately it will take care your reduction in carbon dioxide and methane production. Yes, shift ultimately then in a climate change era, if necessary, because as I mentioned that there is a shifting of winter, the shifting of season, that's why if necessary we can go for shift of production side, and also we can go for shifting of sowing time, and if necessary both. Yes, now this is a modern equipment and others. We should take the help of this modern equipment for weather forecast and agro advisory for educate the farmers. Early warning system, this is very effective. Now, this is another modern aspect we can adopt monitoring. Starting from the sowing, the first day of the sowing to the harvesting, if we go for crop condition index, in 15 days interval, I think we can see the health of the crops and condition of the crops, and I think this we can promote as a private partner. We can also see how best we can monitor this crop health and crop condition during the cropping season. Yes, these are the 3 points bullet. Value-added weather service, this is very important to the farmers, to educate farmers for their knowledge. Then if there is a vagaries of monsoon and climate extreme, we should have a community partnership in food, forage and seed banks. Then better marketing. So far, our target is the food security, so our agriculture is the production explorative, not market-led demand. We should have a production aspect linked with the market demand. Now, so all these components which I explained, so we need a holistic approach for climate resilient seed production. We should have a better weather-based agro advisory system. We should have a better water management system. We should have a crop climate resistant variety, nutrient and carbon source. We know that. So ultimately it should be an integrated farming system approach, so that all component putting together to have a expected outcome. Yes, this is some of the things. If we include have a addition of the sowing dates with shifting variety and all that means adoption and net vulnerability we can assess. So lastly, the climate action points for climate resilient seed production. Crop planning, proper crop planning. We should not stick to the one crop which we know that not profitable, not remunerative, not in the context of the climate change it is healthy. Can we go for the crop diversification? Yes. Now rice area can be shifted to some other cereal crops or pulses crops in upland situation. So crop diversification is one approach. Then whatever technology available, the best practices we should adopt coping with the climatic stress. I think this needs a knowledge base. Then investment, management of land and water resources. As I mentioned, that micro irrigation is a good technology. Yes, it needs initial investment. But once you go for investment, it gives a higher input use efficiency. Capacity building, I think this is a need of the hour. We should educate farmers at the right time, and early warning, we should all educate to the farmers. Then lastly, that strength, research and delivery. Delivery system is very, very poor. Extension system in many Asian countries are very, very poor. We should have a strong delivery system. I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Pathak, and sorry, Dr. Ghosh. Sorry, this has been a very comprehensive presentation, which has covered almost all the aspects, including genetic interventions, agronomic management, as well as application of technologies like remote sensing to address the abiotic stresses that are likely to emerge as a result of the climate change that we are seeing. So we thank you for the nice presentation. And there is some time for questions if there are any. Yeah, I think there is.
Hi, sir. This is Ramesh Kaur from Rasi India. My question is looking at the scenario now happening. Is there any initiative being taken by Government of India, respective state governments, to educate the farmer about the different methods to be taken or the changes, the adoption of the different technologies?
Yeah. I think I have mentioned that initiative of Government of India for educating farmers through Krishi Vigyan Kendra. We have in India more than 650 Krishi Vigyan Kendra. So their job is to educate the farmers. They have a direct linkage with the farmers, and it is they are also assigned this project the fund for that, particularly for capacity building and educating farmers about the climate change.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh, and we appreciate the time you have taken out to come and make this presentation. The next presentation is on sustainable corn production with drought-resistant cultivars. This will be presented by Mr. Paul Hategekimana. Paul is a graduate from the National University of Rwanda in crop production and horticulture, and later he served in Rwanda as an agronomist, after which he moved on to Kasetsart University in Bangkok for his master's in tropical agriculture, focusing on corn cultivars and management of corn drought management through resistant cultivars. And he has excellent kind of results from his research work in Kasetsart University. Right now, he is an intern at the APSA Secretariat, and looking at his research and contributions, we thought he should be presenting to the group his findings. So we welcome Paul and ask him to make his research findings as a part of the program that he is doing at Kasetsart University.
So thank you very much, the chair of this session, the co-chair, and also Dr. Dharani. Because of this opportunity you offer, it is the undeserved kindness to offer this opportunity to present about my research. So especially on my research it is on the sustainable corn production by mostly using the corn drought adaptable cultivars. As we know, the corn, it is very most important crop in a different area. This is the reason why, especially for us in Africa, because we use it as a staple food, I was very interested by doing my research on corn. On this presentation, mostly I will be based on general introduction and about the background on the drought stress, and also to see about the objective of my research, and also I will show some results of my finding I found on my research. So corn, according to different field crop we know, it's occupied the third place on different field crop like the wheat and rice. After wheat and rice, corn is the third one, which is mostly used and needed in different area. And the most population demand, it showed that in 2020, corn mostly it will be the most important crop, then it can be passed to those to wheat and rice. This is the reason to invest and making the business on wheat, on corn, it will be very sustainable and mostly needed. The most of the yield we have for corn, especially in Asia, let's start in Asia because now in our conference it is headed in Asia, 56% of the yield we get in Asia, it is mostly used for animal feeding, mostly for the cow, for the chicken. Then in Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa, including my country, Rwanda also, we use corn as our staple food, especially our daily food. Then because of the increasing of carbon dioxide, as the previous research also it shows, some country in Europe and also in America, they start to use corn for making the fuel. This is the reason why we need to invest more on corn. That since we start on this presentation on Monday, the year 2050, each presenter, they highlight about year 2050 because of the world population now, it is increased rapidly. It means in 2050, we will need more yield production to cover the needed for the population. This is the reason why we need to work hard to see how we can increase our yield production to succeed or to reduce the food security in a different area. So we need at least to double our yield production, but we still have problem. Let's take an example, like by comparing here in Thailand, when you see like in this 10 year from 7 year from 2010 and 2017, the yield production it is not stable and it is not increasing. Sometimes it is reduced. One reason, it is the drought stress. By comparing, see also in Rwanda, in 2014 and 2015, the yield production was reduced completely. And also when you see also the yield production also in my country, it is still low. By comparing, even how you see in Thailand, it is very high. This is the reason why, and also it is one opportunity which I get to get this scholarship to come here from my country to come in Thailand to see how I can learn more about the agriculture sustainable in Thailand. Then the idea and the result I will get, I will go back in my country, then I can introduce to see how we can eradicate the food security problem we have mostly in African country. even if we are talking to see how we can increase the yield productivity, even if in 2050 we need to make the double of the yield production we have, but we still have the environmental factor problem and the climatic change problem. This is the reason why most of the research in this day, they are working to see how we can eradicate, how we can find the best variety, the best cultivar, which can adapt and have the best performance under the drought stress condition or under climatic change. When we compare the annual yield loss per year, it is very extremely. When we compare only for maize, let's be specifically based on maize, 10 to 76% of the yield production per year was lost per year because of the drought stress. This is the big loss. And sometimes it caused some farmer to have the food security problem. This is the reason to evaluate how we can eradicate, how we can reduce this loss. It will be more specifically. Mostly, we get this problem accordingly to what time the drought stress occur and which stage of the crop, which stage of the corn when the drought stress occur at that time. This is the reason on this research, I was based to evaluate the best cultivar which can resist under the drought stress, but on a different corn stage. It means I was evaluating stating on the germination, on vegetative stage, on flowering, and at grain formation to see on different corn variety which has the best performance and which can adapt on different drought stress, which can occur on different stage. Mostly among the different corn, among different field crop, corn is known to be highly most affected by the drought stress. Mostly, it is because of the position of the reproductive part. We know that corn can make the self-pollinated or can make the cross-pollinated. But mostly, the pollen can shaded from one to the same plant, go to the silk, then it can make the self-pollinated. But when we have the drought stress, at the flowering stage, then it can cause this pollen to be infertile. It cannot be able for fertilization. Then when also we have the drought stress, it can hit directly to the silk. Then the silk is failed to be germinated for taking the pollen. Normally, under normal condition, the sunlight is not the limiting factor for the yield production. But when we have the excess sunlight, which can reduce the soil moisture content, at that time, we say that we have the drought stress because it can reduce the production, and it can reduce also the fertility for the pollen, and it can reduce the silk to germinate, which can easily to receive the pollen for making the pollen, for making the grain. In Thailand specifically, 3 to 23% of total maize planting area, it was affected by the drought stress every year. This caused the high loss for the 12 to 85%, to 85 million per year because of the drought stress. When we make the survey to different farmers in different areas, some different farmers, they show that they use different cultivar, but still they have the problem for the drought stress, which can reduce the yield production. Mostly, let's think more about the general description about the drought stress. Because the drought, it is the deficient for over an extended period, the deficient of precipitation when we expect to have the rainfall at that period. Then it can cause the loss of the yield production. Sometimes we visit the farmer, then like in 2014, when I was in my country, we visit the farmer, then to evaluate how the condition it is with the drought stress, then they say, no, this time we don't have the drought stress now. We have the dryness because of that extremely drought stress they have at that time in 2014, 2015. But actually, the dryness is the constant feature of an arid area, like in the desert, while the drought stress is temporary. It can be happen. It is temporary phenomenon. It can be happen. Then when you have the rainfall, it can be eliminated. For corn specifically, we found that corn is affected by the drought stress in different both in physiological, in morphological, and also it can affect the whole plant in the whole corn production. And finally, it can reduce the yield production. But corn can try to adapt under the drought stress by creating some abscisic acid to the root and also creating some antioxidant which can facilitate to compete under drought stress. And also can also have the ability to modify the root system. Then it can elongate to the soil to find the water which is deep in the soil. This is the reason also in this research I was based to evaluate which cultivar which have the deep root system. Then I can evaluate which gene can facilitate that cultivar to have that deep root system. Then I can use that gene to make which cultivar which have high the drought adaptable. Mostly the drought stress, it is classified into 3 types according to the length. We have meteorological drought when we have the lack of precipitation, like in 1 month or 1 year or 1 season. We have also agriculture drought when you have the lack of precipitation for a certain period. Then we have the dry soil, which is the result of lack of precipitation. And also we have the hydrological drought, which is occur, then reduce the water, they reserve the water mostly in the river, in the lake, which is also leads to the lack of precipitation at the end. We have the 3 types or different way the plant can resist or can adapt under drought stress condition. First of all, the plant can avoid the drought stress or can tolerate the drought stress or can escape that drought. Let's think about how the plant can avoid the drought stress. Mostly, corn can do both too, can avoid and can tolerate. Mostly, it can avoid the drought by creating the ability to maintain the tissue dehydration. Then it can facilitate to reduce the amount of water loss. Then it can survive under drought stress condition. And also, it can tolerate. It means it have the ability to function and try to get the yield production under drought stress. And also have the other type of crop which can have the ability to escape or to know before the time for the drought stress. Then it can escape or complete the life cycle before the drought stress occur. As we know, the using of the drought adaptable cultivar may be the only affordable option because the drought stress, it can be occur in different stage of the corn growth. When we are evaluating the drought adaptable, we need to think more about the root system because the deep root, the greater root weight, and also the greater antioxidant pigment, it is also the very needed data we need to collect to evaluate and to compare those different cultivars. So like this one, this was different cultivar in the same condition, but by looking, we see some cultivar, it shows the drought tolerance by looking the leaf area, by looking the leaf color, by comparing to the drought susceptible cultivar. So this is the reason why the objective mostly was needed to evaluate the variety which can perform well. Then when I found it, it will be more helpful, especially for the Thai farmer. And also, when I go back to my country, it will be also very useful to the farmer of my country to reduce the yield production loss due to the drought stress. Then the second objective I have, it is to assess the effect of the drought stress from the seed germination, from the plant growth at the vegetative stage, at the flowering stage, and also to see how it can affect to the yield production. So let's start to share about some results I found. By comparing those cultivars, I use different water level to evaluate which cultivar have ability to resist. I found that for the time for the germination period, the water stress, it can cause it can increase the length of germination. By looking on this chart, under 75% of moisture content, the corn use around 4 days for around all to be germinated. Then at 50%, it use around 5 days all to be germinated. Then when we have the severe drought stress at 25% and under up to 25 and up to 20, you see, it takes around 9 days up to 10 days. Sometimes it can take also over to two weeks until without germinated. And when we are looking also to the germination percentage, you found under the controlled block, under 75%, around 98% have already germinated. Then in 50%, 96% also have already germinated. But under drought stress, only 75% germinated. And also, it showed that the water stress, the limitation of water, it is very big stress because sometimes it can cause the fail of germination. Most of the research they have already published about it when they found that when the drought stress occur at the planting period, specifically for non-drought stress adaptable cultivar, it can cause the poor germination, and it can also elongate the length for germination. Let's see also about the comparison when I compare to different varieties to evaluate which one on those 4 cultivar I was comparing. You see, like this cultivar NT6248, the germination percent, it was 69.3, while this cultivar NS3, it was 85.3% of 85.3% of the germination rate. You see that this cultivar NS3, it have high adaptable under germination stage. By comparing also the time for germination, you see that this cultivar NT7228, it used only 4.7 by comparing to other cultivar, which has used, like this one, SW4452, it can use 6 days for germination. So when we are comparing the cultivar which adapts under drought stress, especially at germination stage, those cultivar which have the ability to use less time for germination and also have the high percentage rate, it can be considered as have the drought adaptable cultivar at that stage. So let's think another type of data which is very necessary also. It is anthesis silking interval. It means the difference between anthesis and also silking. How many days it is between those two steps? Because it is necessary, because after anthesis and also after silking, the pollination can start, and also which can increase the time or also the number of the grain per plant. Under normal condition, if you see on this picture, the number of silk, we have a lot of silk. This means that when the pollen shedded to the silk, we can have a lot of number of grain per cobs. But when you look like on this second picture, the number of silk which is germinated, it is very few, which means the pollen will be shedded, which will be shedded to the silk. It can find the raw number of silk. Then amount of pollen will be shedded down, which can cause the loss of yield. Then we can find some cob with empty grain due to the lack of pollination. So under the drought stress, the silk can fail to emerge or to germinate for receiving the pollination. Then finally, it can reduce also the yield production. So as we see, the drought stress, it causes, when at the severe stress, it causes the long time it can take to have the anthesis silking interval. By comparing the cultivar also, we found that this cultivar NT37248, it takes long time to reach on that stage for anthesis silking interval. So by comparing the cultivar, we need to find the cultivar which can reach to anthesis silking interval for short period. So let's see about the effect of the roots, as we say, when we are comparing the different cultivar to see how the root system, it is very necessary. We see that under severe stress condition, the root number, the number of roots, it was around 18, while under control condition, it was around 30 number of roots. And also by looking the length of roots, you see also on the depth of roots, it was around 104 under the control one, and also under drought stress, it was only, the length, it is only 81, which can cause to be affected by the drought stress. So by finding also the best cultivar, we need to evaluate and to be based on the length of roots. Finally, the yield production, it showed that also the severe stress, it reduced the yield production completely and significantly, where we found that in severe stress, the yield production by plant, we found 64.59 gram per plant, while under control one, or non-stressed plant, we found around 125. It's almost double by comparing with the stress condition. So at the end, we found also the effect of the drought stress on the yield production. By saying on the first, when we have the drought stress at the flowering stage, we found that we get empty cone due to the non-pollinated kernel, due to the drought stress, which reduced the silk to emerge to get the pollination. Then the second one, we found also when we imposed the drought stress at the grain formation stage, we found also aborted kernel. It means there is pollination, but after pollination, there is the drought stress, then it can cause the aborted kernel by comparing with the non-stressed crop. So for the conclusion, we can say that when we have the drought stress at the germination stage, it can cause the poor germination percentage, and also it can reduce the germination rate. When we found the drought stress at vegetative stage, it can reduce the yield production up to 15% by comparing to non-stressed plants. When we get the drought stress at the flowering stage, it can reduce the yield production up to 40% of the yield production by comparing to non-stressed one. But the highly affected, I was found in the grain formation stage where it reduced the yield production up to 60% of total yield production. So this means that we need to evaluate the adaptability of the drought stress, but by comparing on different stages to be sustainable, that we can found the yield production under drought stress. Finally, we need to collaborate or to work together. This research found that by investing on the feed crop, especially by investing on corn, is the best way to remove the food security problem we have in a different area, by showing the example that they did a kind of research. They invest on the feed crop, especially wheat, rice, and maize production in several areas in Asia. Then they found that they reduce the problem of food security for most of country in Asia. So this is the reason why when we work hard and in collaborative, we can eradicate also the food security problem we have in different areas of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Really an excellent presentation where you gave basic aspects of maize reproduction, reproductive biology, as well as how that biology is impacted by drought and stress. And let me tell you, your findings and research have not only relevance to Thailand and your home in Rwanda, larger parts of Asia, including India, where maize is primarily grown in the rainy season, which is called the Kharif season in India, is all rain-fed and is always, every other year is prone to drought stress. So your research has implications which are far-reaching than what you seem to believe. So good luck in your research and future attempts to address this problem.
Okay, thank you.
If there are any questions to Paul, we can take them. Yeah, I think there is one there.
Good evening, everybody. Well, I appreciate very much your talk, but this put too much emphasis on us as we should start breeding or ask our scientists to start breeding for drought resistant as well as with prevention. So it is a matter of fact that we go to the desert, you can see that there are plants which can resist the water stress or the heat from there. But most of our countries doesn't accept the GMO methodology. So in my opinion, that through the convention breeding program, we can incorporate such genes like that in order to have something which will be resistant to water stress, heat stress, other things. You know that the breeders knows very well, they start making only that's red leaves, you know that's narrow leaves, and all of these, but these should be taken seriously because whatever you mentioned, we are happy that our parents, for long whatever they have done, all of those people have done before, we are surviving. But 2050, our children and grandsons will not survive. Okay?
Yeah. So very nice comment.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks for the comment. And as you rightly say, the land races which are more adaptable to such stressed conditions should be put to use in the conventional breeding programs. And what Paul has shown in his presentation is even among the adapted cultivars, there is a lot of variability for some of these factors. So I think that's a very redeeming feature in terms of we can work towards addressing this problem in the future. There are no more questions. We will again thank Paul for an excellent presentation. Thank you, Paul. That brings us to the end of formal presentations for this session. Just a brief, a few minutes towards the SIG group and its activities. I think I'd just like to update you that the SIG group on field crops is working with FAO and ICRISAT to organize an expert consultation and promotion of millets for food and nutritional security. This has been going on for the last year and a half. It is taking some time, We hope by the next time we are here in this meeting, we'll be able to give you a kind of a roadmap for this program. The intention here is that there is a lot of business opportunity in Africa for the seed industry in this part of the world, in the millets, pearl millet and sorghum and crops like that. So that's an opportunity which we would like APSA to facilitate for its membership in terms of giving them the guidelines and advisories in consultation with FAO and ICRISAT to explore those opportunities. I think that's in the works. That will be taking some shape in the near future. And last year, unfortunately, we could not come up with any kind of a field tour that we were proposing. One of the tour that was proposed was a visit to Philippines, where Philippines is one country in Asia which has adopted GM maize commercially, and it has been there for a reasonable period of time with a lot of success. Whereas several other countries in Asia, including Thailand, have been reluctant on GM maize. So we wanted to see what is there that is making GM maize so popular and working in Philippines, and what lessons we can draw from that. And we wanted to organize a tour, but unfortunately for logistic reasons and some issues of seasonality, we could not make it. And this year we propose to do that. Since the next, the Seed Congress is also in Philippines, we are trying to see if we can harmonize and coordinate between the two activities. And there is a kind of a collaborative effort along with the other SIGs, like the Crops SIG and also the Standing Committee on Trade and Marketing, to have a tour to Australia. The next ISF Congress is in Australia. So there is again a proposal by the APSA Secretariat to involve these three groups, in the Field Crops SIG, the Cover Crops SIG, and the Trade and Marketing Standing Committee, to pull together interested members to organize a tour to Australia to look at the various aspects of these different areas. So those are the proposed activities for next year. I think the Secretariat will be communicating with you once they take a formal shape, and they will let you know the timing and the other details in terms of what needs to be done. So that's a small brief about the activities of the Field Crops SIG. And I think my colleague, Mr. Tahir Saleemi, who is the co-chair for this SIG, will summarize the evening's session.
I think you have very well summarized everything about tour and about the programs. So I don't want to add much more because it is already a long day. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here with us. Thank you.
I'd like you to stay back for a minute to give our regards to the speakers. There is a compliment that APSA would like to present to them.
With that, we come to an end of the technical program for the day. So the next technical program, as you would see in your program sheets, will be for hybrid rice in the morning at 8:30, and then followed by the next one, and that will be the last one for this particular Congress. That will be for the Standing Committee on Seed Technology. Both of them, we have identified very good speakers. Jauhar Ali from IARI, who is the Super Rice Program Breeder, he will be speaking in the hybrid rice session. And in seed technology session, we have Professor Kent Bradford from University of California, Davis, who is a well-known authority on seed technology. So he will be making presentations. So I'll invite all of you to the session. Now, we are very happy to thank, on everybody's behalf, Chair Dr. Sateesh Kumar and Co-Chair Mr. Tahir Saleemi for conducting this session, and we'd like to present them with a souvenir, please. Dr. Sateesh. That you will give later. Please, please, please. Thank you. I'd like to invite Mr. Tahir Saleemi, our co-chair. Now I'll request the chair of the group, Dr. Sateesh, to give away these souvenirs to the speakers. Dr. Sateesh, please. Oh, Dr. P.K. Ghosh, please. Please, please, please. Those are beach men. I'd like to invite Paul on the stage, please. It's a photograph, please. Puna, come. I'd like to invite Paul to stay back, please. Dr. Ghosh, can you come, please, on the stage for a group photograph? Come.